Hey guys, don't sleep on sleep. Sleep may be the X factor that you're missing in your health. Be fully alive by actually just sleeping. Hit the music. This is Justin Westmoreland, and you're listening to the Fully Alive podcast, where we integrate physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual relational health so that we can become a fully alive community together. Psalm 7:14 says that a wicked man conceives evil and is pregnant with mischief. He gives birth to lies. Isn't that funny? A man giving birth to lies. And it says that he makes a pit, digging it out, and falls into the hole he has made. Think about that. You build a pit and then you fall into the pit that you made. It says in 7:16 that his mischief returns upon his own head, and on his own skull his violence descends. Isn't it just a sad, ironic twist to start doing an activity and to see that that totally undercuts everything you hope for, and that returns upon your own head? You fall into a pit that you dug. You've dug your own grave. Well, let me tell you this. I had a big aha moment, a big moment of clarity a few months ago when I was driving to pick up my kids. I was driving to pick up my kids at middle school, and as I was about to turn to go to their school, I saw a kid that I knew. And this kid, he's a little guy. He was in a lot of my kids' classes growing up in middle or elementary, and I saw him, coming out of middle school, and he looked terrible. He looked kind of like one of those guys from The Walking Dead. He had this gigantic backpack on his back, and he was under the weight of that, and just kind of shuffling along, looking like he was dying or already dead. And so I thought, what's wrong with this kid? He's in 6th grade. He should be full of life. And my conclusion is, one, he doesn't have the Walking Dead virus that's sucking his soul out of his body or his brains. He is not getting enough sleep. It's 3:30 in the afternoon. Everything's catching up with him. He has no energy. He looks horrible. And I think, well, that's so many of us. That's me. I have the same problem. So what I've done now is I have what I like to call the Mount Rushmore of fitness and health and being fully alive. In our community, we got a Mount Rushmore, which is meaning the 4 top principles you need in order to be fully alive from a physical standpoint. And the first one I've always liked to say is your input, your nutrition. And then your output. What are you doing? Your exercise. And then I like to call the third one the X factor. So you've got your input, your output, and your X factor, which is your experience, your insight. You just get better at fitness the longer you go at it. And there's an accumulation factor. If you've been training for several years, you're gonna just be in a better place than somebody who's just getting started. So the experience factor is number 3. But I've totally neglected the 4th factor, which needs to be on the mountain. It needs to be carved into the stone. And that's number 4, and it is sleep. Sleep is the solution for all of our ills. I just read a book a few weeks ago called The Sleep Solution by Chris Winter, and we'll have a link to this book that you can go and look at in the show notes underneath. But you just can't discount the sleep problem we have in our world. We all feel like we can get by on less sleep than we actually get, and we don't know what to do with sleep. We don't realize that our bodies need sleep, and that's according to God's design. So we've either got to repent of our sleep problem, or we're going to perish. Repent or perish. There are 2 options right now. Is that you're going to undercut all of your progress. You're going to work yourself into a hole that you can't dig out of if you don't get enough sleep. So I hope that's a compelling introduction for you today. We're going to look at a few points on sleep. So hit the break. All right. Okay. So here's the first thing you need to know about sleep. You're going to dig yourself in a hole, and it's a ticking time bomb. You don't know when it's going to happen, but neglecting your sleep is going to lead to all kind of holes in your game that you're not going to be able to recover from. 1, you could have memory problems. Wait, what was I going to say next? memory problems. You got to have sleep in order for your brain to work properly. You're going to have mood disturbances. You're going to be moody. You're going to be hard to deal with, and no one's going to want to train with you or work out with you or be your friend if you are not sleeping. So there's relational dynamics at play. You're not going to be a great friend. You're going to be more self-absorbed if you feel terrible because you're not recovering enough. If you're not getting that sleep that you're requiring. So that's a great motivation right there to sleep. Hey, you want people to like you? Sleep more. All right. You're going to remember things, and you're going to be a better friend because you're going to be more attentive if you sleep more, because your brain's going to be functioning at a higher level. You just don't know what you don't know. When you get a good night's sleep regularly, you're going to feel a lot better and be a lot more better relationally. All right. So doctors don't, as Chris Winter talks about, doctors don't get a lot of training on sleep. A typical guy going through medical school gets about 2 hours in the whole training that they go through in the years of medical school in preparation for being a doctor, unless you're a sleep specialist, which this guy is. And he says, you don't hear about it enough. Doctors don't have time to talk about it. But look, as creatures made in the image of God, we're designed. And we will sleep. Our bodies will make us sleep. About a third of our lives will be spent sleeping. So it's a very important component of our day-to-day existence, which is, are we sleeping well? All right. So if your doctor's not asking you about it, if you're not thinking about it, you're missing a huge part of your health, your overall health. So let's talk about some things that can happen when you do neglect this. When you do, hey, I'm gonna set out and I'm gonna work against God's design for me, and I'm not gonna sleep, or I'm gonna minimize my sleep. Well, you're gonna dig yourself into a hole you can't get out of. Okay, here's a few things that happen: hypertension, heart attacks, stroke, obesity, diabetes, cancer, heart failure, migraines, atrial fibrillation, depression, bedwetting, neurodegenerative disorders, memory disturbances. Okay, now, I could go on and on. You could list a million things there, which if you are neglecting your sleep, you're going to be more prone towards. But if you do improve your sleep, there's scientific studies that will show you can minimize your risk for all those things. Why not? Why is that so? Because you are functioning according to God's design for you, which is to be resting and having sleep, and that your body will recover and repair itself. Let's think about this. Sleep is not just the absence of wakefulness. What is sleep? So that's our second point. We're going to talk about second point. What is sleep? There's dangers to sleep, neglect or disturbances in your sleep. What is sleep actually doing? So let's talk about that secondly. All right. Again, sleep is not just the absence of wakefulness. Your body is doing things when you're sleeping. Think about your body as if it's a big tanker, like a big tanker on the ocean. And sometimes those tankers take on water, and they need a pump to sort of pump out all the water. If that pump is not functioning properly, then you're going to be taking on more and more water, and you know what? You're going to sink. Your ship is going to sink. So one example of what your body's doing is a little thing called the glymphatic system. And that's in your brain. And what it does is it takes what's known as amyloid beta, which is a protein that accumulates in your brain. And this system, the glymphatic system, functions a lot better when you're sleeping. When your body's at rest, again, your body is doing things while you're sleeping. But if you're not sleeping efficiently, then this glymphatic system, which is 60% more productive while you're in your sleep, your tanker's not eliminating the water that you're taking on, namely this protein, the amyloid beta, right? So if you accumulate too much of this protein, there's shown to be in studies an accumulation of this protein far greater in patients with Alzheimer's disease. So you think about the brain function. When you're accumulating too much of this protein, you're going to take on damage in a hole that you can't dig yourself out of. Your ship's going to sink. You have to have the sleep, because it's not just not being awake, your body is doing something very important, namely cleaning out this protein that it can take care of while you're resting. So studies show that among adults genetically predisposed to Alzheimer's disease, people were able to significantly delay or reduce their risk for developing the disease by simply sleeping better. Okay, so everyone's got genetic tendencies. We have our own, DNA, but did you know that you can alter your DNA through your activity? And that includes your sleep. It involves your training. It involves your eating. All that you do is impacting your skeleton and your structures in your body and your muscle tissue. You can grow muscle tissue by your training. So thinking about this, with sleep, with Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, obesity, your body is doing things that are going to help you to live a longer, more productive, healthier life so that you can glorify God and enjoy Him forever. And isn't that the purpose? We're made for a purpose. It's to enjoy this creation, to enjoy God and to love other people. So thinking about this, there's a direct correlation between between all these things, all these negative health effects, and your sleep. Think about this. Do you want to get a six-pack? Do you want to get a core? Do you want to get a slimmer waist? Well, part of the answer is definitely not more crunches. Definitely not more, clothing that's going to hide the muffin tops or something like that. What you need are more hours of quality sleep. Okay, there's a direct correlation between the hours of sleep and the inches of your waistline. When you get better sleep, you're going to drop a few inches of waist. How much sleep do you need? Now, as babies don't do a lot when they're very young. They eat and they sleep. They poop. That's it. And they sleep most of the day. Now, as you get older, your needs for sleep decrease. So typically a young kid needs about 10 to 12 hours, and then in middle school, 9 to 10 hours, and then the typical college kid to adult is about 8 hours, and then it goes down to about 7 hours over the course of your life. So as you get older, you see that you need a little less sleep, but most of us, I would say, are not getting enough sleep. Now, some of us are just lying there and not feeling like, oh, I can't sleep. So we'll talk about in just a minute, what are some tips for getting better sleep? And then at the very end, I'm going to give you the greatest tip for combining your nutrition and your sleep together to really maximize your efficiency. So next up, what are some tips on getting better sleep? First tip for great sleep is you got to have a consistent schedule. Okay, the people that are most at risk for all kinds of bad situations are shift workers, people who are working odd hours, where they're working overnight they don't have a consistent schedule. So if you can avoid that at all costs, that would be great. You want to avoid inhaling a lot of fumes and smoke, but firefighters and painters, and then shift workers are the ones that at a lot of risk for a lot of these diseases we want to avoid because of really the sleep issue. I mean, a lack of sleep, consistent sleep schedule, is as bad as inhaling toxic smoke or fumes. That's how bad it is. So what do you need to do to get that sleep that you need, a good sleep? Well, you gotta have a consistent wake and sleep time. So maybe that's, for you, that might be 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, and then have a regular wake time of 6 or, in the morning, or 7, to get that 8 hours you need. Now, what the plan is you got to have what Winter calls, or Chris Winter calls, you got to have good sleep hygiene. So you want to have your consistent schedule, and you want to have your sleep hygiene. You want your room to be dark as possible. You want your bedding to be as comfortable as possible. You want to have a routine for bedtime so your body gets used to this. You want to avoid things like caffeine 6 hours before bedtime, because that's going to turn off the brain chemicals that God's designed for you to develop your sleep hunger. And I say sleep hunger, your body is going to sleep. It will sleep. People say, I haven't slept in 4 weeks. You know what those people are called? They're called not insomniacs, they're called liars, because people sleep. Everyone sleeps. We sleep. We will sleep because our body will demand it. If you don't sleep, you will fall asleep at odd times, like when you're driving a car, or when you're in class, or when you're listening to one of my very exhilarating sermons. I've seen it happen. People will actually fall asleep during a church service, worshiping God, because, hey, you got to sleep sometime. Your body will make you sleep. And so people who say they don't sleep, they're lying. The record for not sleeping, I believe it was, how long was it? 2 weeks? I'm blanking on the deal, but some guy was able to sleep, well, not sleep at all, is one of these disc jockey guys. I'm missing the actual fact here, but there's a famous story about this quite some years ago, and the disc jockey went insane because you mess with your sleep like that, you will pay the cost. You're going to dig a hole you can't get out of. You're going to sink your ship to the bottom of the ocean. Sleep must happen, and it will happen. Whether or not you're going to submit to it or not, it will get you. Now, some people don't have great sleep. They're wakeful, they're anxious, and they're not able to really get to sleep in. So they feel like they just sit there in bed. Well, look, if you're just sitting in bed, if you're laying there, you're getting some benefit out of that. Wait for 20 minutes. Start thinking through something in your mind, planning out something, and you will fall asleep. And that's actually, lying in a bed is great for you. It's rest. But you want to get to that sleep because there are different parts of your sleep. There's phase 1, phase 2, there's deeper sleep, rapid eye movement, etc. And your body sort of, when you're sleeping, it'll go continually through those stages, repeatedly, from light sleep down to the deepest sleep, where all that good stuff happens. Fun fact: when you get down to your deepest sleep pattern, you become cold-blooded. So hey, you're like a cobra when you're in your deepest sleep. The way our bodies are is we are actively regulating our temperature. Our body is actively regulating our temperature internally, versus cold-blooded creatures that are at regulating temperature from outside, right? So what happens when you get to that deepest sleep? Your body turns that off. It rests, and so that's exactly what you need. Some of your systems need to rest, and that's good for your health as well. They turn off while other systems are turning on. Like I mentioned earlier, your lymphatic system in your brain is turning on to a higher level, but some of them are slowing down. And if you're out of balance there, and you never get the systems that need to rest and turn off and rebooting, then you're going to be hurting. If you're and vice versa. So this is again getting into a regular routine, regular time. Oh, what if I wake up early? What if I wake up before my alarm clock? What if I have to get up and pee in the middle of the night? I go back to bed and wait till that alarm goes off. You need that regular schedule. That will do you so much good. Commit to the every night as much as possible, 10 to 6 or whatever it is for you, 12 to 8 or 9 to 5, that sleep schedule. Or maybe you need less. The way to figure out if you need more or less is this: simply, it's to get yourself in a restricted sleep schedule. Start out with 12 o'clock bedtime, 5 o'clock wake time, 5 hours of sleep. Do that for a week, then push it to 30 minutes extra, and then 15 minutes extra, and then keep that up until you feel, oh man, I really feel good here. But it's typically going to be around 7, 8, 9 hours, not 5 hours. I mean, there's like 1% of us who can maybe get by on 5 to 6 hours. Okay, so thinking through that, we're going to come back at it with one last tip here for really maximizing our sleep, and we'll wrap it up. All right, before we get to that ultimate health and fitness and sleep tip, I want to just talk about just a few other things that concern me. I see people all the time, if I'm in Walmart, at the gym, who have this edema. I'd have these like swollen, joints and things like that. And this is leading to heart disease and things like that. So if you're not sleeping, if you've got sleep apnea, this can be an increased, risk factor for heart disease and whatnot, because your lungs are not pumping out the blood and oxygenating it correctly. So you're going to have a lot of trouble there, and you're going to have some some buildup where the blood's not getting out of the heart properly, and so it's gonna absorb it in the tissues and lead to that swollenness throughout your joints. And it's a ticking time bomb. So sleep apnea is a problem you can fix. Go to a physician and say you need some help, and they will set you up. I could not talk about a sleep episode without mentioning sleep apnea, so I wanted to clear that up. Okay, so finally, takeaways here. Your body, if you're not sleeping, your body's not working properly. You're at a risk of more diabetes, obesity. Just your gym training in general is not going to go as well. You're not going to have the energy, and then you're going to try to eat more to get energy, and that's because what's happening is your chemicals are not aligning rightly, and you're going to be craving sugar and whatnot because you got to have it. And if you get that regular sleep, you're going to be functioning regularly. And then, hey, when you get to around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the evening, you've been working hard, and you're going to get sleepier. It's going to happen. But at 5 o'clock in the morning, if you're waking up and you feel like you haven't slept, maybe there's something going on with sleep apnea and things like that. Maybe there's something going on where you're something's going on in your house that's disturbing you and messing up your sleep, and so you're not able to get there. Maybe you're waking up in the middle of the night and you're not able to get back to sleep. Some of that's stress related, so thinking through some of it's pain related, of why you can't sleep. So if you've got pain or stress, what you have is not a sleep problem, you have a pain or a stress problem. And so you can deal with those things, like getting your pain worked out, so you can get to the point where your body's able to rest, because your body can't rest because of this. It's uncomfortable to lie in bed. Then you've got another issue. It's not a sleep problem, but you've got an issue that's precluding the sleep. So let's say things are ideal, and you're hitting the gym, you're reading the Bible, you've got your good schedule, your good sleep routine. And if you want to ask questions about that, I'd be happy to offer some suggestions on good routines for you. But once saying that's all in place, here's the key nutritional sleep and fitness tip, and that's this. Before bed, about 30 minutes before bed, I like to take a helping or a serving of Greek yogurt, and then probably a honey vanilla Greek yogurt. It's really tasty. And then I like to take a serving of Greek yogurt that is non-fat, low calorie, just disgusting actually. I couldn't eat this on its own, but I take the good stuff and the really healthy Greek yogurt, and I mix them into a bowl and I eat those. And the reason I eat those is and I don't do this every day, but I like to do it on days when I train hard and I have the right stuff in the refrigerator, and I'll put them in a bowl and I'll eat them before bedtime, about 30 minutes. And what that is involved in this Greek yogurt is a thing called casein protein. And the casein protein is slow release. And so over the time you're sleeping, you're going to get the benefits of this protein injection, which is slower releasing versus the typical proteins you might consume, like whey protein, which are more quick acting, right? And that's why people take whey protein after a workout training session, where they will about 30 to 40 minutes after a workout, to really help their muscle recovery. Well, while you're sleeping, your body's doing a lot of things, and this little injection of protein throughout the 8 hours you're sleeping is a really good idea. So if you want to maximize your sleep's quality, your training quality, and feel better, try the casein protein. Look for things that have that. Google it. If you got questions on that, I'd be happy to tell you. But I feel like that's a really underreported thing that I've learned, is this casein protein before bed. So hopefully that works for you. Let me know. Mash the like button, mash the subscribe button, mash the comments. I want to hear from you. If you're listening to it, thanks for tuning in. Share it with your friends. I hope it's helpful, and I want you to sleep better so that you can be more alive and more available. Your relationships will be better. You'll have more desire to serve God and love people and enjoy His world. So again, we're made to live fully alive, built to worship the living one. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. We got a great episode coming up next time. We're going to be looking at dating, healthy dating, with one of my friends, a guest on the podcast. And so we're looking forward to that. Tune in next time. Subscribe so you don't miss it. God bless. Take care.